All right. Next is a keynote on the topic, the impact of creative AI complementing the human minds. We have with us this evening Jaspreet Bindra, founder, Tech Whisperer, as our speaker. A brief introduction. Jaspreet was the Group Chief Digital Officer at Mahindra Group, a 20 billion conglomerate, and a regional director at Microsoft India before that. He's the author of the best-selling book, The Tech Whisperer, on digital transformation and the technologies that enabled it, published by Penguin Random House, as well as the Immune Organization, Future-Proofing Organizations from COVID-like Disruptions, published by Amazon Westland. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Jaspreet, welcome to the summit, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Justin. Just give me a bit as I share my slides. And Justin, if you could give me a thumbs up that you can see them, I'll be grateful. Lovely. So thanks for the introduction, Justin, and I'm not going to go through that. Just an additional thing I wanted to say, which is probably contextual, is that, well, in my late middle age, I'm a student again, and I am doing my second master's in AI ethics and society at Cambridge University. So some of the stuff you'll see will probably be coming from there. What I've been asked to do is something as difficult as inventing artificial general intelligence, which is to cover AI, creativity, and its impact in about 14 minutes. But I try and do my best. We'll not be able to cover all of it. There's so much to talk about, but I'll try and give you a little bit of a fun, high-level view. And this presentation actually is a little bit more fun than some of the other talks that I do, because it is kind of, it kind of answers some deeper questions that we have. Even before I start, a lot of what I'm going to talk about is borrowed from these three doyens, Kai-Fu Lee and Margaret Borden and Marcus du Sautoy, who have done amazing work in AI and creativity. And actually, if you want to know much more than what I'll talk about today, these are some of the books to read. I'm not going to talk about what AI is and how it's more a philosophy than a technology. I'm sure that all of you are sitting here in this NASSCOM summit already know a lot of that. There are many definitions of AI. A pertinent definition to what we are going to be talking today is the one which John McCarthy gave, one of the founders of AI, right at the very beginning, where he said that artificial intelligence is the branch of computer science concerned with making computers behave like humans. And part of it, what we're going to talk today is that can they or can they not? There are obviously a lot of skeptics, and Matt from Microsoft had this to say, that when written in R, it's probably analytics, when in Python, it's machine learning, and when in PowerPoint, it's probably AI. So a lot of stuff in AI is slideware, though there's a lot of good stuff which is happening also. Again, what I will be focusing on next 10 minutes or so is going to be, can AI be creative? And if so, can it be human-like creativity? Because creativity is one thing, human-like is another thing. And then what will it do to us? Frankly, I'm not going to have much time to answer the third question, which has many different schools of thought, different lenses with which you can view this from. And maybe we'll do that in some future time, but I'll try and look at the first two in a little more detail than the third. Now, the interesting thing is that IVV, the famous Chinese artist, basically said something very insightful. He said that creativity is a part of human nature. It can only be untaught. It cannot be taught. And again, most of you are experts in AI, machine learning, deep learning, and you know that AI is all about teaching it to do something. So it's about training sets and training data, and how kind of AI continuously learns from every single reinforcement learning every time there's a result. And so if AI is all about teaching, and here's a definition of creativity, which says that creativity cannot be taught, it can only be untaught. So can something which exists because you teach stuff, can it therefore be creative or not, is something which we'll try and answer. I would have loved to spend much more time before this slide to kind of give you definitions of creativity and what does it mean and why, what can AI, humans do, computers do, and AI do. We don't have the time. So let's kind of go through a way that I will look at how and if AI can be creative. So if you think of creativity, one way to think about human creativity is what are its manifestations. Music is a manifestation. Art is another. Playing games is a third. talking, debating, conversing is a fourth, and then finally writing is a fifth. Now, how has AI managed to do in all of these five things? And let's quickly look at them one by one. One of the things I'm also not doing because of lack of time and also because of certain issues with the platform, which we are presenting with here, is that I'm not showing you any videos. So I'll just ask you to imagine some videos. And the first thing is about music. Now here, usually I play a video of a particular song which sounds suspiciously like a Beatles song. And actually, it was reportedly the first ever piece of music which was created by an AI. And it was trained on Beatles music, and so the song and the lyrics are very Beatles-like. And now, if you kind of go, I did a random Google search, about AI-created music. You'll find hundreds and thousands and more of snippets of AI-created music, full songs, full symphonies, songs which have been created much after the singers have been dead. And obviously now even programs which you have, AI programs which you have, which can create a lot of music, which sounds very, very much like music created by a human being. And it's kind of safe to say that AI is almost as good in creating music, a form of creativity, as humans are. What about art? This particular painting is a Rembrandt painting. Well, it's supposedly a Rembrandt painting because it was actually made 600 years after the Dutch master Rembrandt died. And when this painting came out, and it was created by Microsoft AI along with Microsoft Labs, along with a few other Microsoft Research, actually, along with a couple other partners, it fooled even seasoned experts on Rembrandt because it was so very much like a Rembrandt painting. And actually, you can see it in nextrembrandt.com as to how it was created, the amount of effort which went into training the AI, after which it created a superlative painting. Obviously, it's gone much beyond that. I'm sure the words DALI and Imogen have been spoken a lot in this summit, probably. But, in terms of how you could create art from text, now seems to be super easy for an AI to do through its large language models and its transformer models that exist. These are some of the lovely pieces of cats playing chess, or a rabbit dressed in formal clothes, sitting on a bench reading the Times, all created by, in this case, DALI 2. And so another form of creativity which seems to have been mastered by AI. Games is something which a lot of us know about. Not AI, but when a computer, IBM's Deep Blue defeated Garry Kasparov in chess, and then the famous 2013 incident when Watson again defeated human beings in Jeopardy, which was much more difficult. And then obviously the watershed moment in AI and deep learning when DeepMind's AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol, the 19-time world champion, in this game of Go, which has more moves than atoms in the universe, and which is all about instinctive human stuff. And no AI was ever supposed to defeat this. And move 37, which was one of the moves that AlphaGo did, a very non-human move, actually just completely stumped Lee Sedol, defeated the world Go champion 4-1, and actually Lee Sedol in 2019, 3 years back, retired from Go, saying that, look, from now on, no human being is ever going to win in Go. It's always going to be the machine. It's always going to be an AI. And so that's gaming. There's another famous video, which I'm not playing today, about how IBM's Watson debating engine actually defeated the world champion debater, who happens to be a gentleman of Indian origin, and took on rather the world champion debater in a debate. And the way the debate was structured was that the topic was given 20 minutes before the debate, and in 20 minutes, both the human and the AI had to marshal facts, create an argument, and then coherently debate each other. And this happened. At the end of it, actually the human won, but then one of the things was that the entire jury, this is subjective and it's indeterministic, and the entire jury was human. Now, if the jury was both human and AI, it would have been interesting to see that who would have won. And then finally, writing. Again, it will not surprise your audience, but GPT-3 and now soon GPT-4, which is coming out by OpenAI, just does this amazing level of writing. And I put a paragraph here, which I'm not going to read aloud, but the paragraph is in a conversation which GPT-3 had with a bunch of philosophers, including a philosopher who's my faculty at Cambridge. And it speaks so evocatively that you would never guess that this is an AI. In a much smaller way, when my book was published, the green band that you see here is actually a chapter on AI written by an AI. Not as well as any human being could write, but it still could. It's not GPT-3 level; it was a hack. But even in writing, the fifth form of creativity, in a sense, AI seems to be doing well. And so, just to kind of complete or to end, given the time we have, just a couple of minutes more, what are my views? So I've shown you that, look, if there are 5 different manifestations of human creativity, AI seems to be doing well, catching up, sometimes better, the game of Go, for example, than human beings. And so what is this? Is it artificial intelligence? Or is it an alternative form of intelligence, an octopus intelligence in a sense, which though we create it, we don't understand? Or is it augmented? Is it an intelligence which will work with us? Again, the answers to this and what I think about it cannot be covered in the next 1 minute. But what I will leave you with is a couple of visuals, which will probably give you an idea of what I think, how humans and AI and why human intelligence, in my view, is still far superior. And what AI is doing is a pretend human intelligence in a sense. I'm not going to play this video, but some of you would have seen this meme, this video which went viral a couple of years back when this guy roamed around the streets of one of the Scandinavian cities with a wheelbarrow filled with actual running Android phones. And the Android algorithm, which is a scarily, amazingly accurate artificial intelligence algorithm, which tells you traffic, was fooled. And the roads were empty, but it showed you that the roads were full of cars, because the way the algorithm works is that it it's the number of Android phones on the road communicating with the Google server. And so it thought that just because there are so many Android phones, there's lots of traffic on the road. And for the human, it's a simple hack to do. But for an AI, it's just so difficult to understand that it's actually being tricked in a sense. And the last bit is actually from a talk by Kai-Fu Lee. It's a very famous TED talk. I play a 2-minute clip, which we don't have the time to. But basically, he talks about how humans and creative AI will work together. And, he has this matrix, he has this graph 2 by 2. And basically, this sense is optimization. And this is, in many ways, social or compassion or love. And while here, AI seems to be going more and more towards the creativity part, it's going there. In the other axis, which is emotions, love, compassion, AI is still not anywhere close by. And so this particular y-axis is owned by human beings right now. And therefore, it means that, if you look at it in different contexts, but if you look at it in jobs, they're going to be kinds of jobs which will always remain human. And there's a cheat sheet that I'm showing you here, which Kai-Fu Lee talks about as to what are the kind of quote unquote creative jobs in a sense or roles that are always going to remain human based on this 2 by 2 model. So look, that's what I wanted to share with you. I would guess, while I haven't looked at the time, I would guess that it's about 15 minutes. If it isn't, Justin, then, happy to have a couple of questions. But if I've done my time and invented artificial general intelligence by telling you in 14 minutes about AI and creativity, this is where I'm found on LinkedIn and on my website and at Twitter, and would be happy to interact with you offline.
Well, thank you, Jaspreet, for that informative session, sharing your expertise on how AI is helping in the creative industry. And on a lighter note, all the best with your second master's degree.